that this industry is remarkable about being excited about tomorrow. I don't know about you, and listen, there may not be a lot of people in Cannes right now that are more excited about AI, but if I hear one more fucking person say AI is me, I'm gonna punch them in their fucking face. Yeah. So we're obsessed with AI, because I get shorter, you all know what I'm saying, and we will continue to debate and pontificate about 30-second commercials on TV, yet the amount of conversation that will happen this entire week about social media creative is almost going to be non-existent. Meanwhile, in real life, outside of this fucking world, trillions of dollars are stolen of products that are affected by the marketing that happens in social. The biggest brands in the world that visit here spend all their time thinking about tomorrow and yesterday, and because they don't have the ability to actually know how to market today, aka social media creative and media spends, what do? They spend all their money doing M&A to buy brands that actually do today. So instead of allocating some marketing money to do a common sense, there's not a person sitting here that I'm looking at that doesn't realize there's some attention on social. I literally am having conversations with people already this week about how social media should be regulated because it's so powerful. Social media is changing the geopolitical nature of the world. And we are talking about that, yet there's not even going to be a peep about creative in social this entire week. Not an award, not a conversation. Our industry, which is phenomenal, is incredible about being excited about yesterday. I was doing a podcast where a CMO brought up the 1970s Coca-Cola commercial as a reference point. It's fucking 60 years ago. And I am listening to non-technical people all week talk about AI. They couldn't explain it if they tried. And yet, sitting right here in the middle, we have brands that are being built every day within social, creative, and media, and we continue to disregard it. We would rather make a 30-second television commercial in a boardroom, be audacious and insecure about the process, make a subjective call, put it into the world, and then tell our digital and social partners to do matching luggage to the vanilla sentence that represents our brand in 2023. My friends, one of the great words that I would love this industry to fall in love with is and. This word or is causing a lot of unhappiness in our industry. Being in an industry where 2 or 3 people make a subjective call that sees the day of light is hurting our collective feelings. We are not as creative as we can be because we're not making enough creative. We see the world in a way where brands should be really considering doing 10, 20, 30 ads a day across all social platforms to become more relevant with more consumers to actually drive their business. We have clients and internal people, and definitely external people, that think that's crazy, that's way too much content, right? Quality is in trouble with quantity. Meanwhile, those same people spoke to me for the last 48 hours about AI. Do you know how much content is about to be put out because of AI? We have people literally being scared to post 3 times a day on social because they think it's too much and it's schizophrenic for a brand, that are literally going to be sitting here in 10 years doing 40,000 ads a week. We are fucked up. I'm serious about this. And here's what I mean by that. We are not having common sense conversation in this industry. My friends, we are not. We are not analyzing the cost of the distribution well enough. We have overpriced ads everywhere. We have underpriced ads everywhere. We really come to this week to get inspired and talk about creativity, but there's a disconnect on how many people are actually consuming this work. My friends, I think all of you know this. all our real friends and all our normal people and all the people in the world, they have no idea what the fuck is happening here this week. I don't know what the definition of an echo chamber is, but they should take a fucking picture this week. We must become more consumer-centric. We say it. We say it all day long. And yet we're fully living in boardrooms. There's a different way to do advertising, and it's being done in our faces constantly by emerging brands, emerging creators, emerging publishers, and everything that's actually happening in society is happening from a social-first framework. You cannot sit here and complain about what social media is doing to our society and yet never run an ad on it or disrespect it as not important. The hypocrisy is obnoxious. We must, as an industry, and as this week, have the debate that we all know is true, which is an extraordinary amount of creativity is being done in these channels. And let me tell you what I know from all the amazing creatives in this room. As we have hired Rob to be our Chief Creative Officer, and other BJ and other profound award-winning creatives from all these incredible creative agencies that are running around this week that I have a lot of respect for. I don't disrespect it. I believe in all the same stuff. I just believe there's a better way to get to it. I can tell you right now that the most rewarding thing in running VaynerMedia in the last 14 years has not gone from zero revenue to 300 million plus revenue, from 0 people to 2,000 people. Those are not the most exciting things for me. The most exciting things for me are when strategists and creatives get one-on-one time with me a year later and say how happy they are and how different it feels because they actually get to put their creative into the world. All the best how many people here by show of hands are creative? Raise your hands. First of all, let's clap it up for them because they really deserve it. One more time, you know what? I apologize. One more time. One more time, a little. I just want to get a sense because I want to feel it. I know more than I know that the sun will come up tomorrow, that the best ideas that the people in this room that just raised their hands had in their head never, ever saw the day of light in its pure form. You know this and I know this. One more time, creatives in here. Actually, can you stand up if you're a creative, please? Now I'm getting excited. Please stand up. I apologize. Just do this for me. We are going to spend all week fake clowning for all these people. Let me explain. Not that we want to razz them and please keep standing up. I know creatives get tired sometimes, but stand up. We're going to fake clap. Here's why. We're going to say you're the most important, you're the variable, this is that week, right? Yet, as an industry, as the advertising industry, we have done wrong by these wonderful people. We have done wrong because the process of making very little content that almost nobody actually sees is sucking the life out of them. We must 100% as an industry finally stand up and realize the process of getting to a commercial, it takes 9 months of the most fucking obnoxious meetings of all time, is not stroking their creative juices. We must liberate them to make creative and put it into the actual world where actual humans will see it, which is this thing called social media. I don't know if you've heard of it, the one that you blame for all the unrest in society because it's so fucking powerful. It's equally as powerful to sell fucking lipstick. We must come together as an industry and actually be creative. These people that are standing here came to this industry to be creative, and in their hearts, they know that people that live outside of it are more creative than them. We are doing a disservice to them. We must liberate it, and we must go into and culture and allow these people to actually get their ideas into the world in its pure form, and that doesn't have to be a 30-second video that costs $1 million that nobody's gonna watch anyway. We must let them start making where the world is paying attention. Please free these wonderful people, please. Yes! Now, these wonderful people will have to go through a process. My people come to me a year or two later and say they're happy, and is for the first 6 months they hate me. They hate me because they've been stripped of their power. The people that just stood up have eaten a lot of shit for 5, 10, 15 years to finally be the person that makes the call. All the stuff they hated coming up the game, they become when they have the lead spot. They suppress other people's ideas because they've been so hungry to put out theirs. They weren't able to put out their idea when they get a junior copywriter or a big CD. But now they get into the top spots and they get so hungry to actually get their shit out. Of course they're suppressing everybody on their team's ideas. If you go through this transformation of letting, listen, I have a lot of respect for my fellow creative agencies, but I promise you, the shit that makes me laugh when I visit in IATs or come and hang out or just seeing others, when I walk into a classic creative agency and it has a big sign that says, great ideas can come from everywhere, I laugh my fucking ass off. Great ideas come from the most senior creative on the business that makes the call. And so we don't have to be that way. It can be different. And by the way, whether I and VaynerMedia disappear tomorrow or not, it's going to happen anyway. The world is moving. I don't know if you've heard, but network television and cable television consumption is in a little bit of trouble. This streaming thing, it's going to work out. Our industry's changing. And before you all go and try to figure out how to fucking figure out AI, why don't you figure out how to actually storytell where the actual consumer's attention is? Woo! And why that excites me is, the reason I asked these incredible creatives to stand up is I'm cheering for them. A lot of creatives 5, 6 years ago, I had one of the worst moments of my professional career at CANNES 7 years ago. I had a chief creative officer from another agency roll up at me at like 2 o'clock in the morning at the Carlton, rosé the fuck out, and said to me, you're terrible for this industry. And that's never a nice feeling. I can respect that people see different things. And, I'm used to getting confronted on different things here and there. And I was like, why? And he's like, you're not about the work. This industry is about the work. You're a fucking outsider. You're not about the work. And I said, my man, I'm the most about the work. What I asked earlier, every single creative here knows they never put out their actual work. A fucking account person got in the fucking way. A client manipulated it. Strategy got back in and fucked it up. And then the funniest thing about the ad world, creative agencies don't make shit. You don't make shit. You make gas. And then you hand them to a production company, and they fuck up our idea. And God forbid it's a Super Bowl ad or something big, then they bring in a director, and those fuckers are the worst. These directors that make commercials think they're famous. And by the end, you have a 30-second video on television, and it's a half-pregnant Frankenstein video that has 13 people's DNA in it, and it means nothing to no one. I have a funny feeling we can do better. We are disrespecting social. How many people have been coming to CANNES for more than 8 years? Raise your hand. For the people that just raise your hand, have you noticed how shit's changed? All the activations used to be the agencies. We didn't have these platforms, we didn't have these tech companies, we didn't have ads, we didn't have all this. The world's changing, and that's okay, because here's good news for all the creative people. The idea still is the punchline. The most underpriced ad in the world happens to ironically be a television ad. It's called the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is grossly underpriced. For $7 or $8 million, you get 80 to 100 million people actually watching your 30-second video. If I could convince all my brands to do as much Super Bowl as possible, it's the first thing out of our mouth besides what's going on in social, and always over it, because it is the most underpriced ad. But the punchline of the Super Bowl is not that you were smart enough to buy the ad for $8 million. You got to make a 30-second video that's actually going to make people do shit. And the reality is, when you think back to what people have really acted on, forget about what we talk about here in our subjective opinions. The awards that are given, if you lose an award this weekend or week, don't be upset. 4 human beings made a subjective call that was probably politically laced, that wasn't in your favor. By the way, it's awesome. I love coming here. This is one of the most important parts of our industry, but they are subjective decisions. That wasn't one on a merit, that was one on the decision of a couple of human beings. But what I can tell you is what's not subjective is the business results. What Tubi got out of their Super Bowl spot, what Coinbase got the year before, these are business things that had it. We have a better and bigger opportunity than ever to actually do common sense oriented marketing. The problem is that we have to be honest with ourselves. We as an industry are audacious to the truth of the consumer. Our audacity of not respecting new platforms and the creativity on them is hurting us. When you think about what the creators are going to mean for our world, right? You know, Mr. Beast's chocolate sells. Logan Paul's Prime sells. It sells. You may not like it, you may have a different point of view, but the consumer is acting in a certain way. If this industry just for a second took a step back and realized that actually respecting social and the creativity that we can do on social media platforms, it would actually unlock all the creativity of everyone here, and it would make us dramatically, and I mean dramatically, more consumer-centric. The consumer insights that we would be able to extract from proper social marketing would lead to much smarter campaign work. Our campaigns have worked at Vayner because we're trying to mitigate the risk by doing marketing every day to do better marketing. People look at social media as like test and learn, or throw against the wall and see what sticks, or at worst, spray and pray. Well, most of the brands and agencies here do is matching luggage to the fucking TBC. All four of them are wrong. It is a place to do proper marketing, strategically, creative for the platform, for the many different consumer segmentations. And the reality is, back to everything is different, nothing has changed. Reach and frequency matters, but it has to actually be consumed, right? Relevance is how people decide to buy something new. It's very hard to be relevant to everybody in a 30-second video and call it a day. We're trying to be everything to everybody in those videos, which means we're nothing to no one. If we just got over ourselves, and started being creative I don't know if you've heard, this device has a lot of attention. You can't get your children off this fucking thing. And the funniest thing is, you can't get yourself off of it. Do you know what represents the far majority of time on this thing? The thing I'm talking about right now. I would have lost this bet so severely if you told me that 14 years later, I have to be giving this talk, pleading to the industry to take these social media platforms seriously so we could unlock the creativity and actually drive business results. I would have never believed you. I would have never in 100 years thought it would take 14 years, and still here we are. But the institutions and yesterday hold this industry with a grip around its throat, and it leads to unhappiness and lack of creativity. We must have this conversation as an industry because it really matters. Once you fall in love with understanding platforms, and by the way, this is very, very important. In 14 years, I'm going to be giving a talk right here, and I'm going to say, why are you still marketing on social? And the reason I'll be doing that is I have no romance to any platform. I'll run television, I'll run outdoor, I'll run direct mail, I'll run anything if the price that you're charging me to run it feels underpriced. And I will figure out the creative inside that distribution, whether it's outdoor, television, pre-roll, social, and that is forever the game. The reason television mattered is the amount of consumption was extraordinary, and the videos in it mattered. But then the remote control came, and then cable came, and then the internet came, and then the advancement of the internet called social media came. And now our consumers' attention is fragmented. But the industry, in its subconscious, continues to hold on to yesterday and overvalue tomorrow. I hope this keynote, for any person here, inspired them to actually be a marketer of today. Whether you stay at your firm, whether you come to our firm, we're hiring, whether you go start your own thing, whether you leave the industry and start something else, I promise you, the second all of you go on and do something for your own self, and you've got to sell donuts or yoga lessons, or start up does dry cleaning, or you open up a restaurant, I promise you, you are going to find yourself doing this marketing. You're going to leave what you do for a living today so fast because now it working really matters to you. So I have empathy. I stand here being very empathetic to the brands and the agencies and understanding that you're doing it because it's what's accepted politically or in reporting. And I just ask the brands in this room, are we tired of losing market share over and over to all these ankle-biter startups? It's only going to get worse. Retail media is going to eat up more of our monies for our marketing. These brands are getting incredible market share because for the first time ever, the creative is the reach. You can make videos that get millions of views and a zero in media. Media has disguised an extraordinary amount of bad work for the last 30 years. PR has disguised an extraordinary amount of bad work for a long time. It is time for us to stand up and really go backwards. It is time for media and creative to come back together like it was in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, so that we no longer do this, and we stay accountable as agencies, and we actually start delivering for the brands that pay us and start making content that people want, not what we want to make subjectively in a boardroom. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very tough. And I'm going to get started. Good to see you there. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are